But yeah, my beats, they are hard.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the BCSN SportsWrap. Bryan Fulford and A.D. Drew. It's the big weekend coming up, the big game coming up this weekend. We're recording this in the middle of the week, getting ready. There you see Drew clearly online with the Kansas City Chiefs.
My homeboy.
Your homeboy.
My home's boy.
Yeah, and seeing as how that now I as I live in Florida, I can't, I thought I'd never root for the GOAT, but I'm actually rooting for the Bucks and the GOAT.
St. Louis Rams 2001. That's all I can say.
Look, here I am wearing a Peyton Manning,
who is a year older but going into the Hall of Fame.
Exactly, right. Future Hall of Famer. Actually, that's partly why I'm wearing this, because the announcement comes out this week, number 18, going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame this weekend. But, I never thought I'd be rooting for the GOAT, Drew, to be honest with you. He's kept us from a few Super Bowls. But I tell you, I feel, this is that point of the year where I feel like, why didn't I put just a little bit of pizza money on the Bucks getting to the Super Bowl, or the Bucks winning the Super Bowl? You know what that'd be worth right now? I mean, some ridiculous numbers, some 30, 40 to 1 odds.
And when you think about it, Bryan, all the injuries and the COVID and the quote unquote illegal practices or whatever they had when they were practicing at the high school, and all that stuff that went on, and all the stuff with the between the coach and the quarterback, and trying to get the offense right, and it's amazing. Gronk coming back in shape, 30 pounds lighter and not in shape, and it
really is
Fournette, and
they really exactly Leonard Fournette joining the team after getting cut by the Jaguars right at the beginning of the season.
Yes.
Antonio Brown joins the team midway through, and Ndamukong Suh. I mean, when you think about this team, it really is like the team gelled at the right time. That's why I didn't pick against them in the playoffs, because it was like I know they were playing some subpar or some less than stellar teams in the month of December. But when you just watch what they were doing, you had to start buying in and give me Brady over any of those other guys that he played against. I mean, he went on the road and won 2 games on the road, I believe, right? Two on the road, or was it 3?
3
on the road.
They had the wild card weekend, division weekend, and then conference championship.
Right. So they are in my opinion. I know Kansas City looked good the last week, but I still maintain the hottest team is the Bucks, and they're the ones that are playing in their home stadium. They're the ones that got on a plane and traveled home and don't have to do anything but just show up to the stadium like they do any other Sunday. I mean, look, I know a lot of people are picking the Chiefs,
but Kansas City is the home team.
Well, sure, the AFC is the home team. I get it. But, there was a great stat that I heard, Drew, from the great Brent Musburger, that AFC teams in rematch scenarios, in rematch games in the Super Bowl are 0-4. Now, that's just AFC teams, meaning the AFC team playing a rematch game in the Super Bowl, and they've already beaten the team in the regular season, 0-4. Now,
Wow.
yeah, 0-4. So now, granted, the number, when you include on the other side the NFC teams, it's a little more skewed to, I think in total the rematch games are like 6 and 7 or something like that. But just think, AFC alone, 4-0.
0-4.
Well, I mean, they've lost 4 times. Yeah, 0-4.
Yeah.
So they would be 0-4. So I don't know, man. Before we give predictions, even though we probably we'll have to give score predictions or covering, because I think you're clearly on one side of the line and I think I'm on the other side.
So what makes this different than any other show?
Correct. What is your first Super Bowl memory? We're going to get into talking a little bit later about some memorable moments involving HBCU players or just HBCU guys who have been in the Super Bowl. But what's your just first memory of the Super Bowl itself? Which game?
The first Super Bowl I remember watching was Super Bowl 15. That would be Oakland and Philadelphia.
Okay. Wow.
Jim Plunkett. Why can I not think of the running back? Because it was pre-Marcus Allen.
Oh, you got me thinking there.
Yeah.
Super Bowl. Okay, keep going.
I don't think Lester Hayes was on that team yet either. But I just remember, was it Jimmy King or somebody King was the running back, and I'm going off the top of my head. Cliff Branch was the wide receiver. Ty Christensen was the tight end.
Right.
I can't remember who the other wide receiver was. He wore number 80, if I remember right.
It's funny, you got a name right. Yeah, Kenny King, but he was the receiver.
King. Yeah.
He was the receiver. It was actually a guy by the name of Mark Van Egan. Mark Van Egan was the running back for the Raiders.
Right. Who's the other receiver on that team besides Cliff Branch?
It was Bob Chandler.
Not Bob Chandler.
Let's see. Okay, so they had the receivers. They looked like they were Bob Chandler, Cliff Branch, Raymond Chester. And I'm pulling this from Pro Football Reference.
Okay. So no, that's
not a sexy sounding. I mean, Jim Plunkett threw 3 touchdowns in that game.
Yes. And you have Ron Jaworski, Harold Carmichael, Wilbur Montgomery on the other side.
Yep.
For Philadelphia. That's the first Super Bowl that I remember watching. And then the next one, obviously, what really kind of got me excited as a kid was Cincinnati, San Francisco the following year. That was after the drive. That was the Super Bowl after the drive.
Yes, it was.
Yes, that was the same year the drive.
I was just gonna say, I remember that game barely. I have visions of that game being the first Super Bowl I paid attention to.
San Francisco, Cincinnati.
But I think it was the 80. Now, let me see. 82 was the next year. That was the Redskins defeating
Dolphins, I believe.
Was it the Dolphins in 82?
Yes, because LA beat the Redskins the following year.
And that's the one I really remember. That's the one I remember with Marcus Allen and
the run
in that game. I remember that game. But my father being a Redskins fan, and yes, I'm sorry, folks. I'm saying the word Redskins because that's who they were then. They weren't this damn Washington football team. They were the damn Redskins back in the day. Okay, so, but that was my father's team. So of course we watched that '82 Super Bowl. I don't remember it too much. And then
Joe
the next,
Theismann, John Riggins,
I remember the next year.
Art Monk, the Smurfs, the
Yes,
Smurfs and the Hogs.
yes, exactly. Yes, I remember that. There was a lot of excitement, and then them going back the next year in '83 for going for the repeat, but then this kid Marcus Allen, and I just thought Marcus Allen was so smooth. He was just so fluid, smooth, a tall, slender running back, great athleticism. My mom really liked him. So I don't know. I guess he had a nice smile. My mom liked the smile or whatever. I just remember that kind of excited her a little bit. So
I have to go back a year before to the '81 Super Bowl, and I was so upset with that Super Bowl because the two teams that I liked the most lost in the championship game. That being San Diego and Dallas.
yes, yep, yeah. That was you're right. Because that was the San Diego game that
In the cold, in the 14
cold.
degree,
Yes,
14 below.
Yep, in the cold weather that really robbed San Diego of what they should have been. They should have been in the Super Bowl that year.
Dan Fouts, Kellen Winslow, John Jefferson, all those guys.
That team had overcome that overtime game, if I'm not mistaken, right?
With Miami.
Yes, they overcome that overtime game. There was like
so to go from probably one of the hottest, most humid games
right
in history to one of the most coldest games in NFL history.
Yeah, definitely was a memorable moment. So we're going to get into talking a little bit about the Super Bowl, obviously, with that coming up this week. Actually, National Signing Day for college football programs. Spring football is right around the corner, really. I mean, here we are in the first week of February. Spring football is coming up in a couple of weeks.
We even had a press conference today, not only with signing day, but about spring football.
Yeah, we've got some press conference. There's some interesting news and some rumors and things that are coming out. So all kinds of stuff to talk about. And before we get into that, we're going to get into talking a little basketball first. And then at the end of the show, I had a conversation with Hall of Famer, College Football Hall of Famer, Black College Football Hall of Famer, MEAC Hall of Famer, and a new member of the College Football Playoff Committee, Coach Joe Taylor, who is the athletic director at Virginia Union University. Coach Taylor was gracious enough to share some of his time. And so we got a conversation, a nice conversation with Coach Taylor that we will have at the end of this show. So before we get into talking hoops, quick reminder, if you're watching us on YouTube, Facebook, make sure you like and subscribe to the Black College Sports Network and our show. If you're listening to us on the podcast, make sure that you are subscribed so that way when we do upload new episodes that you get alerted to those instantly. As always, make sure you're following us at MyJBN or MyBCSN1, the number one. Excuse me, that's MyBCSN1, the number one on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And go download the Jericho Broadcast Network's app on Google and Apple Play Store. Of course, that's MyJBN or MyBCSN is what you can search for, and you'll find the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. And then, boom, that'll be there for you. So,
and after you do all that, go to mybcsn.com/support and give a contribution so that we can continue these podcasts.
Well said.
Yes.
Well said. All right. Drew, let's get into talking about the basketball rankings. And we'll get into talking about the rankings, the players of the week. Just a general note about the basketball season. Here we are moving into February. And the SWAC has managed to have a second full weekend of men's games this past Saturday. For whatever reason, remember we kind of talked about they had their first full slate of games, and then all of a sudden, then on the following Monday, there was a pause for two programs. Well, actually, two of the games that were scheduled on the following Monday got postponed. Then they came back the following Saturday, which was this past Saturday of the time of our recording. I believe that was January 31st, January 30th. That actually turned out to be a full Saturday. I didn't look and see whether they played, normally they play 4 games on Sunday. On Monday, excuse me. I don't know if all 4 got played. But the women have not played a full slate. There are still women's teams, if I'm not mistaken, in the SWAC that still have not played games or are dealing with, some COVID-related issues. And so, unfortunately, those women programs have not played yet. As I go.
Yes, all 4 games on Monday also, Brian.
Right. Well, that was but Saturday.
SWAC men.
Okay, so the men are up and running. All the men's programs.
Right. Every game that was scheduled Monday was played. We'll put it like that.
Well, they only play 4. They don't play the full 5. So somebody.
They did this past Saturday, but Monday there were 4 scheduled, 4 played.
Yeah. So on Saturday for the women, the only game that got postponed was Alabama A&M and Prairie View. But on Monday, February 1st, both A&M and Prairie View played. So go figure. Who knows? I'm not even gonna try to make sense of everything. It's just too odd. They are starting to schedule games in between. Like I saw there was a Wednesday game between Grambling and Alabama State. So I think what you're going to start to see in the month of February, you're going to start to see some of these canceled games.
Make up Wednesday
games. You're going to start seeing these games get put there in the middle of the week because they have to get those games in. The number is 13. The teams have to be able to play. They got to find a way to play 13 conference games. And so that's the minimum in order to get seeded for the SWAC tournament. And it's up to the schools. The conference is not really going to try to do anything to set up a bubble or a roundup similar to what the GCAC is doing. It's going to be all on the teams to kind of work out the schedules on these makeup games. Over on the MEAC side, though, Drew, it's a little bit different scenario going on in terms of games and who's getting to play games, right?
Hey, Central finally got a game in.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, they
got a back-to-back against South Carolina State.
Yes, finally. And look, that whoo, the fact that game was close tells you that, hey, look, it's been a while since we played. I think it had been 3 weeks, if I recall correctly.
Something ridiculous.
That the MEAC that the North Carolina Central had actually played a game.
And they also said Howard is actually back in the gym practicing.
Well, amen to that. And we were talking with a good friend of ours on the other day regarding what's going on to Howard, and they've been out of commission for a few weeks.
Yeah, it's gonna probably be about 6 weeks between games for Howard.
Yeah, at that point, you're wondering, will they even have enough time, or will they even try to even schedule? Will it work? Because if you think about the number of games that they've missed, they may not be able to even qualify for the postseason. It'll be a challenge, I'm sure, for them to try and get those games in. I was just doing a quick little glance at the schedule, Drew, just to kind of see whether anybody was able to get games in. So,
and then you had the snowstorm that canceled all the Sunday action in the BA.
Right.
At least in the North Division.
Yes. Yeah, you had that happen, and the women, I think North Carolina Central we mentioned, just actually had a game. So, North Carolina Central women, who they had been out for a while, played a couple of games back-to-back against Norfolk State. Then they had a game postponed. They were supposed to play North Carolina A&T. That weekend series got postponed. So we'll see what happens with North Carolina Central. I think it looks like their upcoming game against Norfolk has already been postponed. So it's hard keeping up with all of this, to be honest with you, but it's challenging. And I give props to any of these teams that are out here trying to make it happen. And you just, the sad part is like one test, one person. I mean, it could be a staffer. It doesn't have to be a player. It could be like one person in the athletic department. And it seems like teams are being forced to shut down and change their schedule plans. So all the best to those teams. What's going on in the GCAC this week, Drew? The GCAC is back in the roundup again, correct?
Correct. We'll start on the women's side, since that's the page that I have open. We'll go to Monday, February 1st. You had...
First off, where are they? Where are they at? Where are they playing?
The women are in Talladega. The men are in New Orleans this time. They flip-flop.
Okay.
So, Philander Smith, Edward Waters, Monday, postponed. Russ Tougaloo, Monday, postponed. Now, here is the interesting one. Dillard and Xavier travel all the way to Talladega to play. Go figure.
Yeah.
The two teams that are right across, that are 4 miles from each other, drive 6 hours to go play a game. But anyway, Dillard defeated Xavier 66-63 on Monday in the Talladega Roundup. On Tuesday, Edward Waters defeated Dillard 74-70. Tougaloo Philander postponed. Talladega defeated Xavier 86-40 to round up day 2. Doubled them up and then some. On day 3, Philander Russ postponed. Talladega defeated Dillard 77-73, and Xavier defeated Edward Waters. Excuse me, I have that backwards. Edward Waters defeated Xavier 59-51. So Talladega comes out of the roundup 3-0. Dillard comes out 1-2. Edward Waters comes out looks like Edward Waters comes out 2-0 out of the roundup, and Xavier comes out 0-3.
So the standings that I see in just the conference play, now the way they're doing it in the GCAC, everybody's playing just once. So in the women, you've got 7 teams. So basically that's playing a 6-game conference schedule. Talladega and now Edward Waters are sitting at 4-1 in the conference. Rust is at 2-1, needing still to play 3 more opponents. Dillard 1-2, needing to play 3 more opponents. Xavier's at 1-4, needing to play 1. Tougaloo's in the unfortunate.
Got to play everybody except Edward Waters.
I was going to say, Tougaloo 0-1, have to play everybody except Edward Waters, and Philander Smith is 0-2, needing to play 4 other schools as well. And their tournament is at the end of the month. So those games have to get rescheduled if that's
if you look down the women's schedule, Tougaloo has a 3-3 coming up next week. 3 games in 3 days.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and if I looked at it correctly, I think all 3 of those games are on the road. So that's going to make for some interesting basketball right there.
All right, jump over to the men's side with the men in the GCAC.
GCAC on the men's side. Looks like all the men's games were played. Started on Monday. This is in New Orleans at the Convocation Center on the campus of Xavier University. Edward Waters defeated Philander 73-71. Russ defeated, and what has happened to Tougaloo this year? Russ defeated Tougaloo 82-68. Xavier defeated Dillard in the game that made sense.
That was a
73-69.
That was a game that decided second place.
Dillard, you talk the Dillard Xavier game?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Moving over to Tuesday. And probably the most shocking score, not the fact that Talladega won the game, it was the score of the game, defeated Xavier 61-49.
Basically on their home court.
At home, yes, on their home court.
Yeah.
That,
by the way, put Talladega in
first place.
Right.
Yeah, they'll be the number one seed and get the bye.
Mm-hmm.
Xavier, I said Xavier.
Yeah.
Philander defeated Tougaloo 87-65. And Dillard defeated Edward Waters 103-88. Moving over to Wednesday, Philander defeated Russ 71-61. Talladega defeated Dillard 80-72. And Xavier defeated Edward Waters 73-60. So do you have those standings in front of you, Bryan?
I do. So that's a tough loss for Dillard because those two losses this week end up being the only two losses. So essentially what happened is Talladega, by sheer, they basically took care of the 2 and 3 seeded teams. So Talladega is 6-0 with an overall record of 20-2. They'll be the 1 seed. Xavier, 5-1, only loss coming to Talladega. Dillard, 4-2, only losses coming to Talladega and Xavier. So you see how all that kind of played out this past weekend or this past week. And then you have Edward Waters at 4. They actually tied with Philander Smith and Russ, but I guess by sheer nature of the tiebreakers, they are the 4 seed.
It would probably go with a head-to-head because everybody's played only once, so it's probably going to be straight head-to-head.
Well, yeah, I mean, if they beat Philander Smith and Rust, that probably moved. I mean, we know Philander Smith beat Rust, so that actually moved Philander Smith into the 5 spot and Rust at the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at the 6 spot, and as you said, Tougaloo's at 7.
Yeah,
and again,
Dillard looks like the only games they're playing thus far are the conference games. Those are the only games they've played on the men's side.
Right. I was just about to say props to Talladega for getting 22 games in thus far. I mean, and a 22 record at that. So they have really done a great job of staying safe, following whatever protocols they have going on, and weathering the COVID storm. And to be able to play that many games and to get that many wins is pretty impressive in a strange year. So we'll see. I think the max number of games you can play in a regular season, Drew, is 25. I think I saw.
I'm not sure this year with NAIA because everybody has changed the number of games, but looks like Talladega will get their max in before the pre-tournament.
And like you said, it just, you got to have a certain number in order to qualify for I'm sure the NAIA national tournament. And some teams may not be, I mean, who knows? Dillard may not even be of that mindset. They may just be saying, well, let's just play our conference games and we'll play the conference tournament and that'll be it.
Yes. But I think you only need like 8 or 10 games in the NAIA. It's a real low number.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Any other conferences we should forget? I think on the Division II level,
SIAC has some teams at SIAC have opened up. Tuskegee and Albany State. Albany State visited Tuskegee on the men's side and split. I know Miles has played. Benedict has played this week also, and Allen opened up the week before. So you've got some SIAC teams that are started to get games in. Kentucky State already has a couple of games under their belt. So the few SIAC teams that are playing have already played. Fort Valley opens up this weekend, I do believe.
Okay. Good stuff. Yeah. And speaking of the men's teams, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a little later, but in terms of the for this week's candidates for, you know, as we when we break down the last week's games, I don't think anybody played a tougher 2 or 3 pair of games than Lincoln, Missouri, where they played the number 3 team in the country and the number 23 team in the country and managed to split. Actually, probably should have won both of those games, as they lost to the number 3 team in Division II on a late layup, you know, with about 1 second to go, I think is what I read.
Yes.
So, I mean, they actually had a lead, the game got tied up, and then a late layup, you know. So it was like that could have been a real impressive thing for Lincoln, Missouri. Unfortunately, later this week, they didn't follow that up with a successful win. But anyway, let's Drew, let's go over our polls. Let's go through the rankings now. These are the rankings, new rankings every week now. So we go through. We've got the large school men, which consist of all Division I teams. We've got the small school men and women, which consist of NAIA and Division II schools. Let's start with the ladies first, Drew. We always talk about starting with the ladies first. So
we'll start small school this week.
Oh, we're gonna start small school women.
Yes.
Small school women this week. All right, let's go. Top five. Here we go.
Wait, before we give you top 5, I'm gonna give you the in the hunt category.
Okay.
The teams that are in the hunt include West Virginia State at 4-4, Langston at 3-3, and these games are through Sunday, January 31st, as I cut off for this particular ranking. Benedict, and Lord Jesus, if Benedict could get enough games in to qualify for the NCAA tournament, because they have kind of a aggressive schedule. You know, they may just get enough games in the month of February to qualify for the NCAA tournament.
That's
interesting. They're 2-0. Miles Men's doing the same thing, it looks like.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's all right. Yeah, let's get to the top 5. Let's get to the top.
Tuskegee 2-0 and Harris Stowe 4-6 in the hunt. Starting at number 5, on a little bit of a 2-game losing streak, are going to be the Lady Lions of Florida Memorial University. West Virginia State has a good week. They may bump Florida Memorial out. Number 4, Lady Tigers of Edward Waters College, 6-4. They picked up 2 this week. So look for Edward Waters to make some moves, and they'll probably jump our number 3 team next week, Xavier, considering they beat the Xavier head-to-head in the matchup. Comes in at number 3. Number 2 team that did not play was Russ, so possibility Edward Waters could jump all the way up and pass Russ, who sits currently at number 2, and number 1 sweeping the New Orleans Roundup is Lady Tornadoes of Talladega College.
Talladega still sitting at number 1, 10-2.
They preseason number 1 and have continued to be number 1.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what Benedict and Tuskegee do over the next week, because they're going to be worth watching, especially if they get some wins under their belt. Let's
Yes.
go up to the large school women.
Large school women in the hunt. Alabama A&M at 4-2, Grambling State 5-5, Southern 5-8, North Carolina Central 3-4, and Alcorn at 4-7. Coming in at number 5, once again, these games are through January 31st. Jackson State 7-5. At number 4, probably the hottest team in women's college basketball right now, the Lady Hornets of Alabama State University. They were 6-1 at the time of this polling. And playing for the first time in a couple of weeks, Morgan State Lady Bears come in at number 3 at 7-2. North Carolina A&T at 7-1 is our number 2 team, and reclaiming their spot at the number 1 in our ranking are the Lady Bison of Howard University.
Yeah, and that's only because they
played and A&T didn't.
Yeah, they played and A&T didn't. A&T had a game scheduled against North Carolina Central, the doubleheader, which got postponed due to weather, I believe. And so that wiped out their opportunities to play Central. Howard happened to get in their game against Delaware State on Saturday, but the Sunday, the rematch of that game up in Delaware, or excuse me, in DC, was postponed. So only one of those 2 games. And then you had Coppin State with the 69-51 win. I think in total, the MEAC only played 5 games over the weekend. I mean, 5. I mean, that's actually, there's not a lot of MEAC teams anyway. But I just looked at that. I made that sound like it was something, but then I looked at them and was like, shoot, ain't that many teams anyway.
Right.
So, all right, interesting look there at the at the women, large school, small school. Let's go to the small school men on the small school men's side.
On the small school men's side, in the hunt, you've got a streaking West Virginia State team at 6-1. At the time of this ranking, Dillard was 3-0. They've lost a couple of since then, so they are kind of just. It'd be interesting to see if they still remain in the hunt. Those are really the only 2 teams that are in the money, as they say. Number 5, Tigers of Edward Waters College, 8-6. And think about it, Edward Waters started late. They started right after finals, mid-December, and have got 14 games in and played another 3 games this week. 2 or 3 games this week. So kudos to Edward Waters for playing catch up and getting it handled.
Yeah.
Number 4, Xavier, 2-1 on the week. That one being loss being to another team that's in our rankings. Number 3 was probably the toughest week out of anybody in any level of basketball, playing 2 top 20 teams, or the Blue Tigers of Lincoln, Missouri at 8-4, and getting the split in those particular games. Mm-hmm. Number 2, the Tigers of Stillman College, and number 1, their cross-state companion, preseason number 1, continue to be number 1, the Tornadoes of Talladega College. At this point in time, we're 18-2.
I was going to mention back when you were talking about the in the hunt teams, West Virginia State, who, even though they sit right outside of our top 5, I believe I did see that they were finally ranked 20th in a recent Division II poll. There are like 2, I guess, main Division II polls that most teams kind of pay attention to. One of them, they were 20th, and the other one, they were receiving votes.
All right.
So I just wanted to mention that because, we mentioned that they were right on the edge of the top 25 or top 5.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So, and of course we just kind of mentioned, even though Talladega's 18-5, they've gone 2-0 since, currently sitting at 20-2 their record. Stillman, I was looking at Stillman for a second. They've actually had games canceled this past week. You know, COVID precautions.
Mobile, they were supposed to play, if I remember correctly.
Yes, exactly. That's where I was going to go. They were supposed to play Mobile, and those kind of games got canceled. So, you know, their schedule has sort of hit a pause in action, and so that's why we haven't seen Stillman on the court. So we'll see. This weekend they've got a pair of games in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, against William Carroll College. Now that's one of those schools that sits on the verge of the top 25. I think they're in the receiving votes category, if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, it'll be a good test for them. Good test.
All right, moving over to the large school men's.
Yeah.
In the hunt, Hampton 7-8.
Still hasn't played. Hampton still hasn't played in 2 weeks, right?
Correct. Grambling at 6-8. Coppin State, great record in the BAC. Overall, they're 6-10 though, so they are in the hunt category. Southern sitting at 4-6, and Texas Southern sitting at 4-7. Coming in at number 5 are going to be the Aggies of North Carolina A&T. At number 4, at 4-1, the Bulldogs of Alabama A&M University. At number 3 are going to be the Panthers of Prairie View A&M University. At number 2, we've got a pair of MEAC schools at 2 and at 1. The number 2 team at 9-6 is going to be the Spartans of Norfolk State. And number 1 is going to be the Bears of Morgan State.
And Morgan's playing and looking like every bit the role. Their rematch game against Coppin State was canceled on a Sunday, I believe. They rescheduled it for
Tuesday.
Yeah. And they ended up winning that contest against Coppin. So they get the sweep over Coppin. In fact, the women got the sweep over Coppin as well on that Tuesday. So it was a Morgan sweep. And they're really looking good, man. I think in that game against Coppin, there were like 6 guys who scored in double digits. 2 of them had double doubles. So, I mean, Morgan is really putting up some numbers. And maybe later in the week, Drew, I'll kind of get a chance. I've been wanting to do this, is kind of do a little digging at the stats nationally to kind of see where teams like Morgan, Coppin, Hampton is another team. Those teams are doing really well right now, statistically speaking, against other teams in Division I in the nation. Streaks. I got to mention before we get off of this and get to the players of the week. Streaks. North Carolina A&T, with a recent win over FAMU on Sunday, are now winners of 27 in a row in MEAC play at home in the Corbett Center. So that's pretty impressive. Just as impressive as Prairie View's, who's now up to 31 as of this recording. They won a game earlier this week, and they are a streaking team. Coming almost seemingly coming out of nowhere. Prairie View is on a 31 game home winning streak. Now that's non-conference and conference. I don't think they've lost a game since 2018. Maybe late 2018.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, so pretty impressive streaks. Prairie View at 31, and they beat Alabama A&M earlier in the week. So that's sort of where you mentioned that jump happened. But Prairie View, man, 5 in a row. I see you got their winners of their last 5. Really impressive stuff. Really impressive stuff. All right. Players of the week. Let's start with the men. Over on the men's side, players of the week in the large school division, Jeremy Gambrell, Prairie View A&M, 2 wins, leading them to a win over UAPB by 20. Then I thought it was very shocking the fact that they beat Alabama A&M by 22. I was shocked. It was an 8-point spread. I thought A&M would have been a lot closer, but I was wrong. Gramble, though, let's see. Looking at his numbers for the week.
Gambrell.
Yeah, I said Gambrell. It's not Gambrel.
Yes.
That's what I said. What'd I say?
Gramble.
Gambrel.
No, you said Gramble, but anyway.
You always want to correct somebody, Drew. Yeah, man. You can't just let a brother be wrong. Anyway, Jeremy Gamble.
His mama named him Clay. I'm gonna call him Clay.
Call him Clay. Okay. All right. Jeremy Gambrel. Sorry about that, Jeremy. All right. 23 on one night, 18 on the other. I was looking. He had, I believe, a double-double against Alabama A&M in 39 minutes of play. 4 of 11 from the field, 3 of 6 from behind the arc, 7 of 7 at the free throw line. No, that is not 12 rebounds. I'm not really sure where Drew. Well. Anyway, I'm looking at your stat sheet, or the stat sheet that you built for that game. A little different than how I was tracking them, but it's all good. So congratulations to Jeremy. Prairie View A&M still rolling. I was trying to see what he did in that most recent game they played against Alabama State. He didn't have the biggest night. I mean, he only had 9 points and 4 field goals. I feel like after winning our National Player of the Week award, Drew, not too many people end up turning around having good games the following day or the following Monday, you know?
Well, we did have a couple of weeks where we had repeat winners that we didn't give them the jinx. At least on the women's side.
Okay, so maybe it's a jinx for the men. I don't know, but small school for the men, we've got a 2-time winner in Cy Witt for Lincoln, Missouri. And, we mentioned the fact that they were playing the number 3 team, and I think it was a number 23 team this past week. And Witt had a pair of double-doubles. No, he didn't have a pair of doubles. He had 22 and 12, and then he followed up the next night with 28 and 8, averaging 25 points over that period, averaging 10 rebounds a game. I thought the efficiency was really good. And how about the fact that Witt is clearly driving the success ship for Lincoln, Missouri. I mean, I think, as he goes, this team goes, and that's the reason why he is a 2-time winner. And it's actually now the 3rd week that we've had a Blue Tiger win this award. So
Quentin Drayton won last week for the Blue Tigers. So they've had back-to-back winners in the small school men.
Right. All right, let's go over to the women. The Women's Player of the Week from Alabama State, Shamaya Ward. Pair of wins, one against, 1-1 split. They lost to Southern by 4, 60-56. Rebounded from that and got a win over Grambling, 69-61. Ward finished with averaging 19.5 over the 2 games. Rebounds right at about 9.5. Assists at 2 per game. Blocks at 2.5 blocks per game. So Ward continues to lead Alabama State, who is sitting right now in first place in the SWAC women's division, just a half-game lead over Jackson State. 2 of the hot teams right now. I mean, Alabama State's won 4 in a row as of this recording. Jackson State's won 6 in a row as of this recording.
And Alabama State also has the head-to-head matchup against them thus far. So it's going to be interesting when they rematch against each other.
Yep. And let's go over to our women's small school player of the week from Langston, Jalen Lawson. Lawson in 3 games, the Lions, I had to think of their nickname there. The Lions actually went 2-1. Lawson averaged 20 points a game, maybe 20.6, 20.7 if you round up. 5.7 rebounds, 3.7 assists. And I just thought in general, it was an efficient week for her. 26 of 44 from the field, no threes, but she was 10 of 12 from the free throw line. Just a real impressive week for Lawson.
And the other thing is they went 2-1 on the week also.
Yeah, 2-1. I don't think any of our, well, other than Talladega, I don't think any of some of our nominees went unbeaten in multiple games. Well, I take that back because I'm seeing Ayana Bay leading Benedict to a pair of wins. Yeah, I don't see anyone else there that had a week like that. Possibly the best stat line of the week might have
came in a loss.
Yeah, came in a tough loss, and it was by Keanu Tolbert. And if I can find the numbers here, okay, she had 35 points in 36 minutes in a loss this past Saturday to Southeastern University, Florida Memorial Junior. And Southeastern is clearly the cream of the crop in the Sun Conference. Might even be, obviously they're ranked 15.
They haven't lost a conference game in 2.5 years or something along those lines.
I think it was something along those lines. But anyway, her Lawson Tolbert's stat line: 35 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 8 steals. Unfortunately, she also had 8 turnovers. But, that's correctable. If your steals and turnovers are kind of even, well, you're giving away, but you're also taking back. So, I mean, that pretty much cancels it out. But I think the number we looked at, when you add up just her what was the stat we came up with when we looked at Tolbert? It was her percentage of
usage percentage or something along those, what we called it.
That almost was at 69-70%.
Yeah.
Her contributions to the total points in the contest came to about 70%.
Yeah. And don't forget, if you talk about stat line, go back over to the small school men and Rayshawn Mott of Xavier.
Yeah.
Hit the stat line in a loss also.
Right. Mart last week in one single performance had 38 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, 3 turnovers, where he shot 13 of 27 from the field, 5 of 10 from the arc, 7 of 8 at the 3-point line. And so that's pretty impressive. A lot of times when we do these players of the week, it does come down to, what one player does in one game versus another player in 2 games. So yeah, it sometimes gets that thin based on all things considered.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, congratulations to our players of the week, Mr. Gambrell, Mr. Witt, Ms. Ward, and
Lawson.
Miss Lawson. Yeah, thank you. I was looking for the name. I lost it there first. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll get into a little football talk, and then we will get into that interview we mentioned with the football coach himself, newest member of the College Football Playoff Committee, Coach Joe Taylor. You're watching the BCSN Sports Wrap on the Black College Sports Network. We'll be back right after these words.
Because the fight isn't over yet.
You will see me choose to protect my community by wearing a face cover.
And even with my face covered,
you will see me.
As a son.
As a man with a never quit attitude.
As a fighter for change.
Join me in wearing a face cover.
To help stop the spread of the coronavirus.
Because this is one small act of kindness
that has the power to make a big difference.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down. It's like a loop machine.
Welcome back to the BCSN Sports Wrap. Bryan and A.D. here. I want to remind you, make sure you're following our show, the podcast version of our show, everywhere that you listen to podcasts, on Spotify, Anchor, Breaker, Radio Public, Overcast, Google and Apple Podcasts, and iHeartRadio app. Wherever you are, make sure to download, like, subscribe, leave a comment, 5-star rate us. Whatever that app allows you to do, downloads are appreciated. Listening is a bonus. So we just appreciate you listening. Share it. Share it with 2 people, please. Give 2 people a heads up and let us know. Let us know what you think. If you want to reach us individually, you can reach out to Drew at BCSN Drew. You can find me at DRB365, and you can let us know what you think. All right. Before we get into talking a little football, Drew, we've got to make mention of the passing over the past week of legendary coach John Chaney. And I guess we could also say the legendary HBCU player and coach John Chaney. I think most people think of John Chaney and his association with Temple University, where he was a coach, I believe, for some 20 plus years. He grew up in the Philadelphia area, coached there. And so he's sort of known in those regards, but his ties actually go all the way back to, Florida and the HBCU in Daytona. Chaney, I did not know, grew up or was born in Jacksonville, Florida. His family at the age of 9 moved to Philadelphia. And that's sort of where he began playing and became recognized as one of the top basketball players in the city of Philadelphia. When it was time to go to college, he chose to go down to Bethune-Cookman College in Daytona Beach. And that's where he would go on to become an NAIA All-American, an NAIA tournament MVP. He would play alongside of Cy McLaren, who also recently passed away. I believe, I don't know if that happened right about the beginning of the new year or maybe right before the new year. But he was with McLaren when those two won the SIAC championship and a berth into the NAIA tournament in the 1952-53 season. Chaney would eventually leave BCC in 1955, play with the Harlem Globetrotters, and eventually play professionally, I believe overseas. Eastern Pro League is where he would play. When he hung up the shoes, Chaney eventually came back to his hometown, so to speak, Philadelphia, where he coached high school basketball in the area. And then he became the head coach at what was then Chaney State College, now known as Chaney University. And he would go on to coach for about 10 seasons. And he led Chaney to a Division II national championship in 1978. And he won about 232 games, only lost 56 times at Chaney. So, I mean, that's an impressive mark there. And then eventually he would move over and coach Temple for 24 seasons, 17 NCAA tournament appearances, won 500 games, had only one losing season, and that was the first season when he was at Temple. Okay. He won 10 A10 conference titles. And as mentioned, his winning percentage would have been something about 74%. So John Chaney, excuse me, had a I don't know, Drew, do I sound like I'm on the right track when I say that most people associate with him with Temple and might be a little surprised at his HBCU roots?
Yeah, a lot of people forget about his HBCU roots, you know. Unfortunately, because of the times, he did not have the opportunity to play professional basketball in the NBA, but he was, legend has it that he was good enough to have played in the NBA. One of the other things people tend to forget is that when he was at Chaney State, he was there also with another basketball legend, that being C. Vivian Stringer. And they were both there at the same time. And Chaney won a championship. C. Vivian Stringer got Chaney State to the finals and lost in the finals during that time. And unfortunately, the most memorable thing, infamous thing John Chaney has was that press conference with John Calipari.
Yeah, that's sort of on his video resume. It definitely is. But I always remember his 88 Temple team. That was a team where he had Mark Macon, and that was a very good Temple team. Didn't make the Final Four that year. That was the year we kind of thought he might get to the Final Four. That team, I think, was a #1 team in the country, or at one point were ranked #1.
I think they went into the tournament maybe like #1 or something along those lines.
Yeah, they ended up, I don't know who they lost to. I know they lost in the regional final, though.
Yes. And also, you know, he was famous. He was one of the first coaches that made the 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning practice famous, you know, so that the kids would have their time in the afternoons to be student athletes. Mm-hmm. He practiced early in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was also one other passing in HBCU basketball, Brian.
Okay.
That being Jerry Johnson of LeMoyne-Owen, who died on the I believe it was the 21st, but he died at Brian 102.
Wow.
So Johnson coached at LeMoyne-Owen for, counted, Brian, 46 years.
Wow.
And that was this past Sunday when he passed, and amassed 821 wins over those 46 years. And I actually had the opportunity to compete with him in my first coaching stint as an assistant coach at Tuskegee University, because he retired in 2005. So I did get opportunity to coach against him his final year, my first year.
Oh, you were coaching against him?
Yes, against him at Tuskegee University. So like I say, he had 821 victories started out at then LeMoyne College, which later became LeMoyne-Owen College. He played football. He went to Wiley College, but ultimately got his degree from Fayetteville State University and learned the game from Hall of Famer John McClendon. So,
okay.
And I'm looking. There's a couple of articles. If you Google them, there's this article when at his 100th birthday, one of the keynote speakers at his 100th birthday party was Penny Hardaway. So he was Johnson was a Memphis legend. So obviously, our thoughts and prayers are with his family and all those from the LeMoyne-Owen family.
Yeah, and same for the friends and family of John Chaney. And we're working on a special guest interview with someone who writes in the Philadelphia area, has a intimate knowledge of John Chaney. So hopefully we'll be able to share that with you in the upcoming week.
One last thing about Johnson, 1975, he won the Division III national championship at LeMoyne-Owen College and was the first African-American head coach to win the Division III national championship in basketball.
Okay. All right. All right, let's get into a little football talk here as we get towards the end of this segment with you and I. Super Bowl's coming up, obviously. Kansas City versus Tampa Bay. Super Bowl 55, and we've got 54 years of highlights and information. I'm sure that anyone could go over, and I would, I would love to spend the whole show just going over stuff with anybody. But we've got a few HBCU guys who are going to actually be playing in this contest. It just so happens that both teams have guys, so that's a positive. Tampa has a pair of guys from North Carolina Central, and Kansas City has a pair of guys from, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm where they're from again, Drew, the guys from Kansas City.
Let me go back to my page where I had that. And now my internet wants to run a little bit slower than normal. I believe Prairie View. Did you say Prairie View?
No.
Okay.
I don't get. No, they're not from.
Okay, you've got South Carolina. You got two from South Carolina State. One from Prairie View, 2 from Central.
Right. So it's Tampa that has 3 players. And so you've got the names on all those guys, correct? Because my sheet, I've lost it. I had it up.
Antonio Hamilton of South Carolina State. Alex Brown, South Carolina State.
And hold on, those 2 play for Kansas City, correct?
I believe so.
This is great radio.
Quentin Bell, Prairie View. Dick Leverett, Central. Ryan Smith, Central.
And so the last 3 there play for Tampa. Now, Bell is actually, I don't think he's, well, I've seen, the last thing I saw is that he's not technically on the
active roster,
on the practice squad, but the other 4 guys are all active roster players. Of course, Bell, former standout at Prairie View A&M, where he was an all-conference player. And so it continues the tradition of having some HBCU guys in the Super Bowl. And we were kind of going through some various names and just kind of, spitballing a little bit in terms of, greatest moment, greatest performances. Before we get to some of the names, there are 3 Super Bowl MVPs, only 3, that attended HBCUs. You have the first was Richard Dent, Tennessee State grad, MVP of Super Bowl 20, won by the Bears. Then you've got, of course, Doug Williams from Grambling, quarterback who won Super Bowl 22. He was the MVP. That was Super Bowl 22. Of course, no one can forget that game. And then the following year, you had Jerry Rice for San Francisco. He of Mississippi Valley State fame. He was the MVP of Super Bowl 23 with an 11-catch, 215-yard, and a touchdown performance in that contest. Pop quiz, if you can remember who San Francisco played that year in '88, Drew.
That would be Cincinnati.
No, you would be incorrect. The following year was Cincinnati.
88?
88, yes.
So that was 89 when they played San Francisco.
San Francisco played Cincinnati.
That's what I mean. When they played Cincinnati,
yeah.
Who did they? Denver. No, Denver was 80. Yeah.
Denver?
86, 87. Denver went back-to-back.
Went back-to-back years. Okay.
Yes. Am I correct?
You're right. And it was a blowout in both games.
Yes.
Yeah, Doug Williams blew him out the one year, and then the following year, Jerry Rice and 49ers came and blew him out.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk about the number of Super Bowl champions, Drew, for a second. We've got 4-time and 3-time Super Bowl champions at the top of the list, right?
Correct.
Of course, we've got John Stalworth and Mel Blount, members of Pittsburgh's 4 Super Bowl championships in the 70s.
Steel curtain teams.
Right. I recall when I went and looked at the stats here, John Stalworth, he's from Alabama A&M. There was a lot of dispute. I think people say Lynn Swann, I think, was the MVP of 79. But I think a lot of people felt like one of those years, John Stalworth should have been MVP, maybe based on yardage. Listen to the numbers by Stalworth in the 78 and 79 Super Bowl. In 78, he had 3 catches for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns. In 79, 2 catches for 121 yards, 3 catches for 121 yards and a touchdown. So
and these were teams that would run heavy with Franco Harris and Rocky Bleier at running back.
Right. And I've heard people say that the reason Swan won I think Swan was the MVP of 78.
SC.
Well, possibly that. Plus, that was the game where, remember the video or the highlight of
the
Swan
catch,
catching the ball while he was being tackled and sort of catching it as he's stumbling, falling over the defensive back, and still comes up with the ball. And Stalworth really didn't have a highlight that looked that ridiculous in terms of like, how in the hell did he make that catch? You know, he didn't have that kind of moment. So it brings up the general question for you, Drew. Which Super Bowl play, not performance, play is most memorable by an HBCU player? Super Bowl play, or the top play in a Super Bowl by an HBCU player. What do you think of first?
I think of the eyes.
The eyes? Okay.
From the interception, that just that shot. Oakland, Minnesota. It's that 76 season, 77 Super Bowl. Which Willie was that? And I get them confused whether it was Davis or Brown.
That was Willie Brown.
Willie Brown.
Yeah.
Yes.
Willie Brown.
That
was a Super
interception,
Bowl
that pick six.
Yeah, that was Super Bowl 10 in 77.
Yes. That whenever you watch the old highlights on ESPN or NFL Network, that particular play is the play that always sticks in my mind. Super Bowl singular plays. It just kind of stick in my mind, especially if you talk about a defensive play.
I was looking up earlier. I was trying to see, did Willie Brown score a touchdown off that play?
Yes, I believe that was a pick six.
That was a pick six. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was pretty impressive there. And that was the only Willie Brown, of course, from Grambling State. That was the only Super Bowl that he won. He was actually a part of two Super Bowls. Just so happened he was a part of Super Bowl I. That was Green Bay defeated the Raiders that year. And then he was a part of Super Bowl 10. And he did that at the age of 37, Drew. 37. Wow. Right. At the age of 37 is what he did. I was kind of pull up the quick stats for that. That was 77 or that was 76?
76 season, 77 Super Bowl.
Yep. Yep, 76 Raiders that won the Super Bowl. Yep, that Raiders team only lost. It's interesting. I'm looking at their log from that entire season. My God, they only lost one game that year. That was in week number 4 against New England. And then they just ran off the rest of the year as if finished 16-1. Many people probably think that's one of the greatest Raider team ever. For me, Drew, I'm going to go John Taylor. I'm going to go John Taylor's game-winning catch in the 1989 Super Bowl. Don't get me to guess, and I guess that's going to be Super Bowl 24 because Rice was the MVP the year before. So, yeah, that would have been Super Bowl 24. That was Montana to Taylor.
Yes.
Taylor was a Delaware State grad, was also one of the MEAC all-time top 50 wide receivers, a 2-time conference player of the year, I believe, 3-time Super Bowl champion. Three-time Super Bowl champion. He and Jerry Rice are both three-time Super Bowl champions.
And those three came together.
Those three came together.
But Jerry Rice played in one additional Super Bowl.
Yes, people forget about that. I sure did when we were talking about it earlier.
Yes, he was part of the Raiders teams that lost to Tampa the year that Tampa won the Super Bowl.
Right. Just quickly, multiple Super Bowl winners include Shannon Sharp from Savannah State. He's won 3, right? He with Denver and Baltimore. Nate Newton.
3 with Dallas.
FAMU won 3 at Dallas. We mentioned Taylor. We mentioned Stalworth. Jerry Rice, of course, had 3. Mel Blount of the Steelers, of course, we mentioned him. He had 4. I think that might have been the multiple. A guy like Ed Too Tall Jones from Tennessee State. Now, he played in 3 Super Bowls. He lost with Dallas the 2 years that they played Pittsburgh. And then he won one of those years where Denver defeated Pittsburgh. Or actually, that might have been earlier than that. That might have been like 72?
He didn't come to the league in 74.
Okay, so
he was on the 77 team.
Okay. So yeah, this has been one of those early years for Dallas.
Yeah. And you forgot one multiple winner.
Yeah, go ahead.
Live. Think about Live.
Ooh.
Think about Live. The show Live. Live with Michael Strahan, bro.
Oh, I'm like, he's not even on that show anymore. That's why I'm like, huh? I'm like, I don't even say he was there for a minute. He was there for a cup of coffee. He didn't stay long.
Yeah.
Well, no, he's only won a Super Bowl 1 time.
He won 2.
No, sir, he did not. The first Super Bowl that he played in was actually against the Baltimore Ravens in Tampa, matter of fact, in 2007. That was a team led by that was the great, no, wait a minute. The Giants. That team. Oh man, Giants. That team was led by Kerry Collins. That's right. Kerry Collins, and I think they played Baltimore team that was led by Joe Flacco, if I'm not mistaken. Or was that the
Yeah, that was Kerry Collins.
Kerry Collins.
Because they lost to Tom Brady.
Huh?
No, that's pre.
No, they lost to Baltimore. Yeah, I'm telling you, they lost to Baltimore. That was Ray Lewis, Baltimore. Trent Dilfer, the best, one of the best defensive teams, people think.
Yes.
Yeah, that was early 2000, and then he came back in 2007.
Yes.
And I think it was his last season or 2. He was either going to retire afterwards.
He retired after the Super Bowl.
Okay, retired afterwards, so he can get started on this on his movie or his TV career. He retired, and that's where they defeated New England, prevented them from getting the perfect season. That was that Super Bowl.
Yes.
All right.
So those are only the
yeah. And so let me see some other names that we had on the list. Of course, we mentioned Robert Mathis from Alabama A&M, played with my Colts. Super Bowl 43, I believe that was. We also mentioned Art Shell, who won a pair of Super Bowls in 77 and 81. Willie Lanier from Morgan State. He was a Kansas City Chief. He was actually a loser in Super Bowl 1, and then he won in Super Bowl 4 with the Chiefs.
Did you get Harry Carson?
Harry Carson won a Super Bowl in 86.
Art Shell.
I think I just mentioned Art Shell. I did mention Art Shell.
Buck Buchanan.
Buck Buchanan a teammate of Willie Lanier's in those Super Bowls, Super Bowl I and Super Bowl IV. So,
and you forgot the elephant in the room.
I did.
Yes.
Walter.
Yes. There you go.
Okay. Yeah, Walter Payton won. Jackson State, obviously, but he won with Chicago. Did not score a touchdown, although Jim McMahon scored 2. Who else? Refrigerator Perry scored a rushing.
Even Matt Suey scored a touchdown.
Matt Suey scored a rushing touchdown. Everybody named Mama scored a touchdown.
But Walter.
Yeah, one of the big disappointments of that season. And just that moment, a guy who basically carried that Chicago franchise to that Super Bowl for all those years did not end up getting a touchdown.
And if we left somebody off this list,
I'm sure we did.
Please let us know at DRB365 or BCSN Drew on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm sure, and that'll help us going forward, because obviously every year we'll kind of add names to this. I mean, this is we'll always talk about,
because there are plenty of role players out there. These are just some of the more famous names that we've kind of thrown out.
Yeah, we'll always come back to.
I got one, and Lord forgive me if he ever sees this, he's gonna kill me for not mentioning that he played in the Super Bowl.
Okay,
that would be the only Tuskegee University football player that ever played in the Super Bowl. Ken Woodard played for Denver in 1986.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Who do you like in the game? I just thought I'd ask. What's your prediction?
I'm gonna pretend you didn't ask me that question.
What's your prediction for the game? Does Kansas City cover the 3.5? Is it a high scoring game, low scoring game? How do you handicap this game?
Honestly, and it is going to sound crazy, I think this is going to be a low scoring game.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, the 2 quarterbacks who you don't want to have the ball last are playing in this Super Bowl. Because you don't want to give Tom Brady time on the clock. You don't want to give Patrick Mahomes time on the clock. Patrick Mahomes showed he can score in 30 seconds or less.
Right.
You got to get Brady a little bit closer to 2 minutes, but he's shown he could do it also.
Yeah.
So it's going to really be interesting. You know what the over-under on the game is?
I thought it was 57, but keep talking and I'll figure it out.
I'm really leaning, and I'm probably going to be in a minority, but I'm really leaning on the under on this game.
Yeah, you might be onto something.
Yeah, like I said, I just have a hunch that we're going to be looking at the under when it comes to this game, because I think these defenses, Tampa's defense is pretty good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe it was one of the top rated defenses in the league. Matter of fact.
Correct. And remind me to go to call Carlos Brown and go on the I Told You So tour next time I'm on his show.
More people betting with their heart.
Yeah,
not a good play, fellas. Never bet with you.
I need to go back. Listen, I think I got all the entire playoffs right on his show.
Damn, Drew, you always you don't be telling anybody all this stuff in advance. I could be helping you and you can be helping me. We can all be coming out a little bit better on the other side.
With some entertainment purposes in our pocket.
Right. The over-under is 56 points.
Yes. I'm leaning on none. As of right now, at the time of this recording, I'm going with the under.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. I'm gonna ride with the Bucks. I'm not gonna. I don't want to bet against Brady, and I think Baltimore has the better defense right now. But
Baltimore.
I'm sorry.
You said Baltimore.
I'm sorry. Tampa Bay has the better defense.
Because I had no idea which team you meant when you said that.
No. We were talking about Baltimore earlier in their defense, and that's who I was thinking of for some reason. But yeah, Tampa. I think Tampa's got the better defense, and it's gonna be tough going against Brady. I wonder though if Brady ends up throwing a couple of interceptions. I don't know if they'll be able to recover from that.
Over under on combined interceptions.
If you set it at 1.5, I'd take the over. I think there'll be 2 or more in this contest. And the good thing is these are guys who don't throw a lot.
But they don't care if they throw them because they can come back and score anyway if they do throw them.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, because both of them have a little bit of a gunslinger mentality. I think there's going to be probably 5. I'm going to say 5 picks in the game.
Oh, I'll take the under on that.
Yeah, I think we're going to have I won't say 5 picks. I was thinking 5 turnovers.
You talk, so that's including fumbles. I don't know, man. I don't know if the Chiefs run enough for there to be fumbles like that.
People trying to make the extra play, trying to get the extra yard. I think we're gonna have about 4 to 5 turnovers.
Yeah, that's an interesting prop. I may have to go look and see if that's a prop builder that I can make. I wonder what that line would be. Interesting. All right, Drew, National Signing Day. Just kind of transitioning off the Super Bowl, moving over to college football. National
players
signing.
Who want to get to the Super Bowl in a few years.
Yeah, players
start the journey today.
Exactly. So a lot of letters come in. I've seen a lot of. I haven't really seen a lot of buzz or any names. I think the Jackson State news from 2 months ago, back in December, with their signing class in the early period, I think that kind of sucked a lot of the air out of the room. And so now I think we're just looking at, and obviously we're recording this on the actual day of signing day. We'll have to kind of do a little deep diving and kind of seeing what schools have what. But again, the challenge is going to be, you've got not only this class, but you also have the class that you previously signed. And the previous class has no game under their belt. So they're just as green as the guys who will be coming in. That's got to be a challenge. And I don't think that they have expanded the rosters yet, Drew, have they?
It's not the rosters, it's the scholarship offers.
Okay, scholarship offers. Yeah, I don't think they've upped that yet.
Because you can put as many kids in uniform as you want to, but you can only travel with so many, and you only have so many scholarships to give away. Although returning seniors will not count against scholarships for next year as far as your scholarship total equivalents, but you still got to find the money to fund those scholarships.
Yeah.
And some schools are funding them, and some schools are staying at that hard line of whatever they had set, be it 36 for Division II or 65 for FCS, excuse me.
Yeah, so we'll get into breaking down the spring signing period a little bit. Also, as I'm just kind of looking at some notes here on the Black College Sports page, our guy Luke Wilson, a couple of seniors, HBCU guys had a good showing at the recent Senior Bowl. North Carolina Central defensive back Brian Mills and Grambling State offensive lineman David Moore. And the highlights I kept seeing on Moore were pretty impressive. I mean, if you're one of the people that like to pay attention to offensive linemen and the offensive line drills that they do. I mean, he was owning dudes. Now, this is just videos that were coming out, but the videos I saw, Drew, he was owning dudes, owning them. So that's pretty damn impressive. And then you got Brian Mills, who was a cornerback, a defensive back at Central, and he too got some good praise and marks. I don't see any stats for him in that contest, but really that whole concept is all about the practices leading up to the actual game.
Right? Yeah, the game is for the fans. The practice is for the scouts.
Right. A couple of SWAC schools are dealing with some COVID issues. Jackson State dealing with some COVID issues, and they've had to sort of put their program on pause. I'm just reading here from the Black College Sports page. It says Jackson State under new coach, Coach Prime Sanders, has been forced to temporarily pause all football activities due to COVID. As first reported by the Jackson Clarion Ledger last Wednesday, the team halted activities because of a combination of COVID-19 and contact tracing. Jackson State scheduled to open the spring regular season against Edward Waters on February 21. That's 2/21. Anybody see that?
That's right, 2 weeks.
2 weeks away. The program has not been the only HBCU football team to be impacted by COVID-19, but Alabama State head coach Donald Hill-Ely, he recently tested positive for coronavirus. And North Carolina Central's just announced last week that it was going to opt out of spring competition, including football. So we heard about North Carolina Central. So you see the challenges already existing.
And now there are rumors coming out that Alcorn is potentially going to opt out of spring football, which would be the first SWAC school, and that would make them the 5th FCS team to opt out if they do opt out.
Yeah, I first saw this on footballscoop.com. I think that's where a lot of people saw it, so I don't know if they were technically first. I know that was the first thing I saw. I was kind of doing a backtrack on, who else reported it. So I don't know if it was Football Scoop or one of the other sites, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen at Alcorn. We've heard different things, so I've seen a couple of different things reported just by the fact of saying that this resolution is going to be tricky. So there's definitely what do you want to say? There's definitely conflicting opinions possibly on what's going to happen. And so we're just awaiting word from Alcorn State at this point on official word. But people are talking. We'll say it like that.
Yes.
People are talking. All right. Anything else football related, Drew, that we should probably get to? Otherwise, we will.
On the Division II level, I had the opportunity to participate in Savannah State's press conference, the football press conference today. They signed 18, and there will be additional games forthcoming. They're looking to have 4 to 6 games total this spring. The only game currently on their schedule is the game, the Gulf Coast Classic in Mobile against West Alabama. But it's not been confirmed, but they're looking at opening it up against, I believe he said, West Florida on March 6th. There are a couple other games that they're still in contract negotiations, but expect that West Florida game to come out within the next few days.
Okay. Well, we sit back and wait to see what happens. You know, right now, everyone has been on the same page in the SWAC. So this could be the first
Defection.
team kind of defection to kind of do their to kind of say we're not feeling safe or whatever. So we'll kind of wait to see what happens. All right, Drew, any final thoughts before we close it out? Coming up after this, after the next break, will be our interview that I did with Joe Taylor. But Drew, any thoughts? Any final thoughts?
No, and congratulations to Coach Taylor for getting that placement on the probably the most, I won't say the most important, but one of the most highly publicized committees in athletics right now, being the FBS Bowl Selection Committee. And for number one, an HBCU lifer, let's just put it like that, to get that opportunity, and then a Division II HBCU athletic director to get that opportunity. You know, kudos to him, and I hope he represents not only our HBCUs well, but his university well also.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Taylor's background. Obviously, he's and I kind of asked him about this in the conversation. He's been a head coach and played in the playoffs at the Division II level and at the 1AA level, and
FCS for our new people.
Now FCS. So I think what'll be interesting to see is, does that play into it? Obviously, the future of the FCS or the college football playoff has really been, they've been called out, and the folks have been saying, hey, let's have more teams. Let's expand the field to 8. I maintain, Drew, that the biggest challenge at that level is what people want to have happen with bowl games, because the bowl games have such a place of reverence in that level of college football, and there are 40 some odd bowls. They serve these various communities,
and there were about 5 or 6 that were scheduled to start this year but did not because of COVID.
Right. So I mean, I think there are 41, and I wouldn't be surprised if it went up to 48. So, I think what happens with what happens with bowls, obviously, if you have an 18 playoffs, I keep thinking of this. You have an 18 playoffs, the first round, 4 teams lose. Are those 4 teams, are their season done? They shouldn't get an opportunity to go to a bowl game after that, should they?
No.
So, see, that's your first thing. That's your first, and especially those are going to be home. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about those first round of games be home games
instead of the traditional bowls.
Instead of a bowl. So if that's the case, then what you're saying is, 4 teams are going to lose out. Period.
It would be interesting to see that being that additional home game, because if you're going to do that, that means that particular game is going to be probably the week before Christmas.
Okay.
And depending on the calendar, it may fall, a day, on Christmas, but it's going to be that week before Christmas, because your semifinal is always New Year's week, sometime depending on the calendar, but it's the week of New Year's. With the championship game usually being the second Monday in January.
How crazy would it be if that championship were played in the week between the pro football NFL championship week and the Super Bowl? So, You
saying push everything back.
Well, I don't know if it's really pushing back, because think about when the college championship game was.
It's wild card weekend.
Right. Right. And I don't think
you got the 2 wild card games, and then you come out with the championship game that Monday. So you got 3 great days of football usually.
Right. But okay. But I don't think you can avoid the wild cards. I mean, now the scary part is, now that they went to the 3 games in 3 days, that's like 3 games.
But I don't see that happening, because there's no room to play those semifinal games, because those particular weekends, college football has their time.
Right.
They usually play on that. Unless they play on a Friday, unless they play all the college playoff games on Friday. You couldn't play them on Saturday or Sunday, because you not going to compete with the NFL. Well, and also you have to look at potential sites, because a lot of these games are played in NFL stadiums, i.e. the Sugar Bowl, Cotton Bowl, Orange Bowl, and the Fiesta Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So the Orange Bowl played in Hard Rock, natural grass surface.
Right.
If Miami makes it to the playoffs, gonna be tough to keep the field maintained. Jerry's World, artificial turf, so you're good there. Same thing in the Fiesta Bowl out in is it still University of Phoenix stadium?
Yeah. Yes.
So really, you've only got one venue that's regularly used where you have to worry about a natural surface, and that being Hard Rock in Miami.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because the Bowl is its own separate entity.
I just think if they do go to the expansion that's going to be the biggest question about what to do with bowls. And so as a guy like Joe Taylor comes in, given his experience of playing in playoff scenarios and things of that nature,
give some of these ancillary bowls an opportunity to host.
At some point, somebody has to think about fans. Somebody has to think about the travel of fans. And you're saying, hey, go travel to this.
So you're gonna ask these fans to travel 3 weeks in a row, or 3 out of 4 weeks. Christmas.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's why I'm saying. You just mentioned the ancillary bowls. I don't think they should do that. I think those should, as much of these games can be played at the home stadiums.
But even still, you're still going to have a set of fans traveling.
But you would rather travel to the place if you're a loyal season ticket holder, you'd rather travel to the place than travel to a city you don't know, where you don't know what your expenditures and costs are going to be.
And what happens when you get that 1-8 matchup of USC versus a Clemson?
What are you going to do?
I was saying,
you're just going to
somebody's got to go coast to coast.
You're going to have to play it. I mean, it's going to be what it's going to be.
My thing is go to 6. Go to 6.
Okay. I mean, you're maintaining the bye weeks then.
1-2 get a bye.
Right.
3-6, 4, 5
are playing home games.
Yes. Yes. 3-6, 4, 5. Then you continue on with your traditional Sugar Bowl, whatever, Peach Bowl, whatever that you're gonna call it.
All right, interesting thought and idea. All right, Drew. Well, let's get ready to check out. Want to remind everybody again, My BCSN1, the #1, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, www.mybcsn.net is our website. And of course, make sure you're following us, like and subscribe our show, Facebook, YouTube, wherever you may be watching and listening. make sure to share it. Make sure to rate, review, comment, or like wherever you might do that. We greatly appreciate the love and support. And Drew, let people know again if they want to slide some coffee money, or a little something from out of their hard-earned pockets.
I don't have a spare job, so I need your spare change. And you can cash out that spare change at bcsn.com/support.
All right. That's
jingle change, paper change, electronic change. We take it all.
All right. So coming up after the break, when we come back, you're going to see our interview with head coach and college football Hall of Famer, or former head coach and college football Hall of Famer, currently a member of the College Football Playoff Committee, Joe Taylor. All right. So for A.D. Drew, I'm Brian Fulford. Enjoy the Super Bowl big game coming up, and we'll talk more next week. Thank you for watching and listening to BCSN Sports Wrap. Peace out.
Okay, see. I'll holler.
My God.
It's another sad day in America.
Painful to be introduced to George Floyd during his last breath with the cop's knee on his neck.
On his neck.
He deserved so much more.
So much
How
more.
many black lives have to be taken before something is done?
We are not a threat.
I am shaking as I type.
This has got to stop.
We are sick of it.
We need conviction.
I just want us all to live.
The deaths will not stop until the powers that be are finally held accountable.
Don't look away from the truth until every one of us are free from white supremacy.
The world stands with you.
Criminalizing and killing of black and brown bodies is not new. It's as old as America. It's just getting filmed more.
Do you know what it feels like to be hunted? To have a new hashtag for a dead black person every single day? How does one plan a life if they aren't sure they will have a life to plan?
Trayvon Armstrong, Deborah Daniels,
Megan
Michelle Lee
George Floyd. His name was George Floyd. Say his name. Say his name.
George Floyd. Say his name.
Say their names.
Once again, and always, we fight for justice.
Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter.
Rest in power, beautiful. You didn't deserve this.
Have you had your Earthblend coffee today? At Earthblend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earthblend Coffee.
This is Brian Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show. Welcome to another edition of the BCSN Sports Wrap, a special BCSN conversation with college football and Black college football Hall of Famer, Coach Joe Taylor. Coach Taylor, welcome to the Sports Wrap. It's a pleasure to have you. How are you and how are your family and everyone there at Virginia Union doing?
Well, first of all, thanks a lot, Brian, for reaching out, and congratulations to all that you guys do, just helping to tell our story. But everybody's good. This virus is serious, but we were trying to be, obedient, and everybody's fine, and thanks for asking.
Before we get into talking about some of the more recent news, of course, you were recently selected to be a part of the College Football Playoff Committee. Let me start a little bit by asking about just the challenges and maybe give us some thought about a little background behind the scenes on how this pandemic has really changed some of the processes and maybe procedures of things at Virginia Union, and maybe what you expect to come out of this when we do get into a safer place.
Well, yes, certainly it's unprecedented. I never thought in my lifetime that I could not walk out and see somebody practicing, whether it's basketball, football, or whatever, but again, it's real. And it has actually created for us a transition from campus-based to virtual. Of course, we do have maybe about 200 students on campus, and we do what we call resocialization. And resocialization is merely small group settings, whether it's concept teaching, whether it's strength and conditioning, whether it's walkthroughs, but it's changed the landscape. But it's created, I think, a sense of bonding, a realization of what's really important in life, because I think because of Zoom and Team, you see a lot more meetings. We have one with my family, and I see my family more now than I did in the past. So it's always, some silver linings. And I think as we return to some facsimile of normalcy, I don't think we'll ever go back to what we did and called normal. But all of that's good because I've seen a lot of creativity throughout, not just here at Virginia Union, but throughout our nation, really.
You mentioned that key word there about creativity. And I think one of the things personally that I've noticed is it's really forced many athletic programs to really change the way they market and reach out and to not only their alumni and fans, but really publicize their programs. What kind of things have you seen and what maybe things are being worked on behind the scenes at Virginia Union in terms of technology that we hopefully will be able to see on a regular basis come future seasons?
Well, that word streaming,
yes,
it's going to take a different platform in reference to the things that we were looking at. If we can't have in-person audiences, we will get the cutouts and maybe put the picture of the person who bought the season pass as an option. And then, of course, as you stream, that might be a new way now of having your sponsors, but again, it's creativity with the idea of the vaccines being available. I know this spring is pretty much out in terms of competition.
Okay.
Some might attempt to, but we are hoping that by fall of 2021, that the options will be there to move back to some sense of normalcy, or as you said, use that creativity to through technology. And of course, our recruiting now is mainly technology. Coaches, when they meet with their staff, or when they meet with recruits, or when they meet with their teams, that Zoom and Team. Only thing I don't like about it, Bryan, is that people can catch you at home too, because you have no excuse.
Yes, sir. Right.
But and then, of course, being a VP now, we always have these cabinet meetings, and they can go 6-7 hours per day. But again, it's I think the idea of cleansing, we were able to sit as a nation and kind of get a real view of what our country is like in terms of, the supremacy concept, the BLM concept, everybody had an opportunity to really kind of view where we are as a nation and give all of us an opportunity to search our conscience and decide which way we want to go.
Speaking of that, what has impressed you or maybe encouraged you about young people or maybe the future as you've watched your student athletes and other student athletes or just students in general, the way they've responded and the way they've reacted to the Black Lives Matter movement or just where they are in history, which is probably not too different. Well, it is different than maybe when you grew up, when you were in college, but it's a lot of the same things that you went through as a college student. I'm sure these young people are going through. What have you seen from young people and your student athletes that has impressed you and encouraged you?
Well, and that's a good way to encourage because, you know, racism, bigotry, that's not new. It's been here. But I think because of the ability, or when we were kind of shut down as a nation, I think it helped to bring the idea that it's still real. Our young people really, I don't think, had focused on the kind of society that we live in. But because there was no classes, no campus-based classes, there was a lot of scenes on TV, and they were able to see that, and now not just African Americans, but non-African Americans who probably in their focus world, this was kind of outside of their psyche, and they were able to see it and to see the marches, all nationalities, ethnicities were together in the streets marching. I think for the first time, the conscious level is high enough that it's just not us now who see it or experienced it, but others as well can say, oh my God, this is not right. So I think it's gonna, if it's gonna ever be some legislation to get rid of systemic racism, I think it's gonna happen now.
Yes, sir. Let me transition a little towards the recent selection of yourself towards the College Football Playoff Committee, which you are now the first, if I'm not mistaken, you could say first Division II administrator to be a part of this committee, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Well, yeah, first Division II, but also a first athletic administrator from a HBCU.
Yes, definitely.
To represent this committee, and certainly very, very humbling. I'm very honored. And I got a call from Bill Hancock just prior to the holidays, and in 2019, in December 8th, I think it was, I was in New York to be inducted into the the National Football Foundation College Hall of Fame. Bill Hancock, who is the chairman of this committee, he was in the audience, and I was asked to give the response for all of the inductees. And I think this is probably when he had an opportunity to know who I am. But he also reached out to, Dr. Thomas, the commissioner of the MEAC, and others. And then you had to do a background check. But I think really it's the body of work over the 40 years that we were able to be a part of what I call the greatest profession in America, and that's coaching. Because on a daily basis, you have the opportunity to impact lives in a very positive way. And I think going into the Hall of Fame, in fact, not just the College National Hall of Fame, but also Shaq Harris and of course Doug Williams have done a great job of recognizing and creating the Black Coaches Black Football Coaches Hall of Fame. I think that's, to me, again, to be on the bus with Eddie Robinson and Jake Gaither, it's just humbling. And I think that's what really initiated the conversation, the initial call. And then, of course, being on the board of trustees for the American Football Coaches Association and rising to the position of president in 2001. All of that body of work and with integrity, I think created this opportunity.
Yeah, well, definitely. I appreciate you sharing that. And again, congratulations on that. So one of my questions or one of my thoughts as just this past year with the college football playoff selections, which just finished this past year with Alabama winning, there's been a lot of very public criticism of the selection process of the teams. And mostly of that has come from whether it be fans or media for non-Power Five, what we call the Power Five programs. So I'm curious, what have you seen from your perspective, and how can this process in the future be set up or established so that these non-Power Five schools actually feel like they actually have an opportunity to win a national championship? Because that's one of the things that I often hear, whether it be from head coaches or athletic directors of these non-Power Five, is that they don't have a chance. What would you say, or what are your thoughts as you look forward to the next 3 years of being a part of this committee?
Well, again, Brian, just being selected, we really haven't had an opportunity to come together or meet. I think our first meeting is going to be the last week of March in Indianapolis, and then we'll get some training in August. And, when we get to Dallas, Bill Hancock and those guys, they've done a great job. Certainly, it's not without challenge. When you look at even the Power Fives, with 4 teams going, somebody's going to be left out. But
right.
I think the media, I think the fan base, they're all more concerned than the actual coaches. When they understand that it is about strength of schedule. It is about, all of the things that go into, and it's all, and luckily for us, it's all about the analytics. All of that will come together, through our research. But, it's never going to be without challenge. But I promise you, Bill Hancock and this group, it's all about integrity, and those conversations will continue to be with us, and we'll just continue to have to work through them.
Right. Now, fortunately, you've been a part of the NCAA Division II playoffs, the 1AA, which is that's for us old school folks, which is now the FCS playoffs, at Virginia Union and at Hampton. What have you experienced, whether it be from a coach or administrative perspective? What are some of the positives or maybe challenges that you've experienced about whether it be the process or being a part of those playoffs that you think is something that can maybe be a benefit in your future discussions with people on that playoff committee?
Well, again, you're talking about the total programs. I should tell my guys, and my administrators, and this has all changed since the early days, but most of the time, if you're at the HBCU, you probably got to cut the projector off or the video in terms of game planning and go down the hall and teach a class. And I don't know if your opponent has to do the same. So a level playing field long before game day has been a challenge. I think what you see now in terms of the leadership at our HBCUs, our coaches, our programs, all of them have become a lot more competitive because we are not saddled or bridled with all of these other responsibilities, and we can actually do the work of developing our young people, doing the analytics that's going to cause for better game day preparation. So it's a broad spectrum when you start talking about what happens on game day versus, because I always used to tell my players, you can't be a champion on game day if you're not practicing to be a champion every day. And from Sunday to game day, a lot goes into it. And if the playing field is level on Sunday, your opportunity to be successful on Saturday is going to be a lot greater.
That's a good point. That's a great message. You mentioned teaching or other non-coaching duties. Did you ever teach? And if so, what courses did you teach while either at Virginia Union or Hampton?
Well, when I was here in the 80s, coaching at Virginia Union, we had a full teaching load, which was 5 classes.
Wow.
Physical education, of course, and health. At Hampton, it was a physical ed class, but you evolved away from it. In fact, if you listen to Willard Bailey, who has just been selected to go into the Black Coaches Hall of Fame, he talked about his whole career. He taught classes, and he preferred teaching classes because he wanted the players to see that not only was he a coach, but he was an educator. So there are benefits in doing so. It's just the idea of if you're human, there's only so much you can do. It's like a jack of all trades, but master of none. So it's been a way of life at the HBCU for years. But now, as I said before, it has evolved into a profession because I always looked at coaching as a ministry. Because whenever you're trying to enhance the lives of others, it is to me a ministry.
Okay, yeah, that's I've heard people say that. I've been a coach nearly 20 years of basketball, and I've heard people mention that word of coaching in ministry. So it's interesting to hear you say that, and it's so true. And oftentimes probably myself or other people at this level, high school level, maybe don't even often think of it that way, but that's so true that you bring that up.
Well, the key is, I always tell them that the good Lord didn't put you here to be a uniform rack. It's a lot more to you than that, but use the vehicle to set your goals high and, understand that those same skills that makes you successful as an athlete certainly can propel you higher in terms of what you do in life as well.
Right. Let me ask just one other sort of football related question. At 2020 saw a lot of shuffling of conference shuffling. We like to call it here the conference churning, where we had several schools changing conferences throughout the year, whether it be leaving the MEAC or moving into the SWAC, and we've even seen it at the NAIA level. What are your thoughts as you've seen from your viewpoint some of the changes that are going on in the structure of conferences?
Well, yes, we did see movement, and my first thought, and as I've looked at and also talked to different commissioners, is really an economical decision. When you look at FAM having to go all the way up to Delaware, when they can get on Route 10 and be in the and go west, and you got 10 schools right there. So whenever you can cut down on the cost or the expenditures for travel and hotels, you're almost forced to do so because athletics is still a business. And, you know, you want to maximize and, you know, be as efficient as you can. And it also is an advantage for your fan base. Again, they can get on Route 10 and go west a lot quicker than they can get on 95 or 85 and go north, so that you can have more, you know, fan support. So I think that's the number one motivator for why you saw some of this movement. Now there are other, because I didn't see the visibility getting greater, and then. But I think really it started with this idea of we are a business. Are we maximizing our resources? Is there any way we can save in terms of, because it's still very expensive to you know, have an athletic program with 15 or 20 sports. And, you know, wherever you can find a way to what they call Six Sigma, making sure that you eliminate waste. I think you're being smart as administrators and as coaches.
That's a good point. Good point. Speaking of, or trying to transitioning a little bit towards Virginia Union in itself. Now, my co-host AD Drew, he brought up a good point that Virginia Union has he likes to think of Virginia Union as a basketball school. Now, I don't know how the public thinks of it, but obviously given the fact that there have been 7 and maybe more now, but we've notated 7 professional basketball players who have come from Virginia Union. Ben Wallace, Charles Oakley, Mike Davis, Terry Davis, Bruce Spraggins, Jamie Waller, and AJ English. I don't know if I've missed any big names there, but without basketball this year, you know, and of course your background being in football, what has it been like in the community without basketball this year, and just in general on campus for everyone without basketball this season?
Yes. Well, to be honest with you, those names, yes. They came through and really created a real strong tradition here at Virginia Union. In fact, on the front door, just above the door on our gym, we have on it home of 4 national championships.
Yes, sir.
And I don't know how many universities can make that statement. So of course that was under the legendary Dave Robbins. So it's a strong tradition. And when I was asked to come out of retirement and take the job here as the AD, Dr. Perkins asked that, you know, I know you have retired, but I just need 3 years for you to come and organize my athletic department and get us back on track for the great tradition, because of course he asked for 3 and this is number 7. So I don't know, somebody got the math screwed up some kind of way. But there are some outstanding, you know, your Herb Scotts, Leonards, Brims. There's quite a few that have come through as football players and have gone on to the next level and done an outstanding job. So it's a great tradition. And as you say, being absent of that this fall, we have sought to have what we call Flashback Fridays. We have Throwback Thursdays. The social media platforms have helped us to keep the fans and supporters embraced by putting out different forms of games from previous years. I think it was 3 years ago, we was in the national championship game with our women's basketball team. Our track team has been doing some great things. Of course, Coach Parker, our football coach, Dr. Parker rather, he played here and he's returned, and we really are proud of the things that he's doing. So we are still recruiting, still having small concept groups, still strength and conditioning, because very soon, as they said, soon and very soon, we feel like we will return to competition. And whenever it comes, we will welcome it. First of all, I appreciate what you guys are doing in terms of getting the word out, telling our story, because there are a lot of great stories. And even though this pandemic is real, I'm very proud of the way business has continued to move forward. Our HBCUs, I think, will come back even stronger than they were before. You look up and you see a lot of philanthropic efforts moving forward. And I think as a result, people are really seeing the very fine work that goes on at our HBCUs. And we appreciate you guys for what you do to put the story out there.
Yes, sir. Well, hey, again, thank you for your time and congratulations again on the selection. And we look forward to hearing more in the future. And we want everyone at Virginia Union to continue to stay safe. You and your family be well. And we're praying that we get back to some kind of normalcy for a great 2021-22 season.
Yes, we will. We will get through it all together. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Coach, for your time.
All right.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.